Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the show, The Future of Web. So this show is about Web3 technologies. The intention, of this is to educate people and help increase in understanding and wider adoption of this technology. So here we discuss the current state of Web3 and how different personnel, be it founder, investor, developer, community manager, designer, marketer, who's in this space, is helping through their product or service. Right. My name is Alek, as you can see, and I'm a founder of Animal Solution and a partner at a design studio called Phoenix Digital Studios. So we do a lot of cool stuff, but this podcast is not about me. It's just about what food we're getting today and how we're solving the challenges. Our guest today is a very very special guest. He's a young kid, as you can see. He's a blockchain developer. He works on different projects as a consultant. He's won some bounties like the economy. He trains people on blockchain development. He has worked on various projects, uh, you know, some freelance gigs as well. And he's an active contributor to Web3 community, as well as he works in DAOs like Blockversity. And he's also, taken some sessions on communities like Growth School, Chronos, and etc. And he's all of 17. So let's go ahead and please welcome Rushil Chawla. Hi, Rushil.
Hi. Hey, hi,
How
Alec.
are
I
you?
hope you're able to hear me well. First
Yes,
of all, thank you
yes.
for having me today. It's a pleasure being here.
Pleasure is all ours. Pleasure is all ours. I think we're very excited, I'm very excited to know, a little bit more about you. Understand, like at such a young age, how did it go?
Sure.
So, right? But we'll start, we'll get delve into that, and how you're helping with your knowledge and everything. But first, what I
Correct,
really
correct.
want to know from you, Rishil, is what is it that gets you up every morning?
Actually, it's cool. All right. So basically, actually, the correct reason there would be, in fact, school. Yes. But apart from that, it's the curiosity driven mind that gets me up every day. So essentially, everyone talks about get up early and stuff like that. I'm not a early waker, right? I work at night because that's the way when my mind is the most active. So the fact that people ask me what time do you get up, I'm like, let's not go there. So essentially what gets me up is just the curiosity driven mind, because the more one is curiosity driven, the more passionate, the more inclusive, that's where one essentially gets up and starts pumping the day.
Interesting, interesting. No, I remember, like in my school days, which is quite a long time ago, I was also a late sleeper, you can say. I was also not a morning guy. I would, usually have, a lot of black coffee, and then, that would help me study, focus, stay awake in the night, and then, then it became difficult for me to get up in the morning, right? So it's
Correct.
interesting. Cool, cool, cool. So Rushil, let understand a little bit more about you. So something that you usually not share with people, a secret, I can say that, which you can
Oh,
easily
all
share
right.
now. It'll be interesting to know.
Right. So basically, I'm really active on Twitter and stuff like that. And most of the things out there I've posted, but you like the one thing that I do not really tell people is what I'm working upon currently. So currently, I'm working on a freelance gig, like starting in a negotiation to them, and probably it's like an NFT marketplace, which should be cooking up soon.
Oh, interesting. Very good. So what got you interested in blockchain? Let's just
Oh,
start
okay.
from there.
So the story starts very long, right? So when I was about 15 and now I'm 16. So
Mhm.
when I was 15, that was about this 2020 December, 2021 December. So
Mhm.
upon that time, I had me and my some of my friends, closest friends, had started an Instagram account which we posted about, be it the Web3, right? Essentially, be it NFT, be it scams, be it how does one create NFTs, valuable content, reels, and some content stuff right there. So we started
Mm-hmm.
about November, December, early
Mm-hmm.
December, late November, after our first term boards got over. So we
Mm-hmm.
started with that, and essentially that's what got me curiosity driven, because the fact that we had to research upon content, get the best content, and then design the templates and then post the stuff, get to know the algorithm. And fortunately, some of our reels even crossed more than like 10,000, 3,000, 4,000 views. And that was like
Mm-hmm.
that got us really motivated into the field. So we started brewing up more content and posting. So essentially that's where I got the hinge of Web3, hinge of web the entire web system, the ecosystem, the communities, the DAOs, the NFTs, the marketplaces, etc. So since then,
Mm-hmm.
I was really curious upon, there are like about more than 300 million current users in the world, which are using cryptocurrencies, or
Mm-hmm.
basically blockchain, because cryptocurrency is the infrastructure is blockchain. So essentially I
Yeah.
wanted to get up into the technology, because from the very start, around 7th or 8th grade, I was into programming. And
Mm-hmm.
the programming aspect of mine, like I really like to code and program, right? So basically that's where I came to know that the technology behind everything is blockchain. So we started researching upon blockchain, and that's where I started to know blockchain, and then slowly started to open up, join Discord communities, join
Mm-hmm.
hackathons, come to know people, did a few courses, and that's how it went.
Oh, interesting. So, okay, so you got to know about it, you wanted to do, but what is that thing, like that information piece, or that talk that exposed you to blockchain? Like somebody must have talked about it. Like for me, NFTs came into the picture when Gary Vee started talking about it, right?
Correct. So
So, what was
essentially,
it for you?
uh-huh. So essentially, what it started with was, I remember we posting a reel. So we you should not shoot the reels. We used to take the reels out and cut copy, and do the post repost the existing reels.
Uh-huh.
So one of the talks there was in fact published by us, and that's what got me driven. It was about how the decentralization system works. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, we all knew by that time how big giants take consume the data of individuals, and the data privacy is a thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
data security, data privacy, data driven things, and how data is the currency of the future, right?
Yeah.
So essentially that's what I came to know. And how decentralization, or how blockchain, the concept as a whole, helps the ecosystem for not getting too much into data security, right? So it essentially helps you to privatize your data, keep your data transparent and secure. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I started into Web3 as a whole, and that's where my curiosity bulb blew, and from there, it's still here. It's the November, December, October.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been about a year now. So say from the time you
Um,
got exposed to the technology, just about a year, right? Like if you're close to
just
December.
about a year.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, just about a year, right? And now, so within a span of a year, from getting knowledge to actually go ahead and being part of different, I would say, projects. So
Correct.
how has the journey been? So how would you sum up? And this is happening. You're in which class right now? 11th, right?
11th.
Grade 11th, right? So what? How has the journey been? So this with school, along with school, your other things with friends. So how's the journey been?
So in a single word, I'll call it beautiful, right? And why exactly beautiful? So when I started exploring the field, it was like me in a world of strange things happening around me, right? Someone, there is the like scams and hacks going on, and on the other side there is people developing, posting on Twitter, people posting their wins. And I was like so clueless around that field. I started, the research, as we call it, in terms like, so when I exactly started the research, all my friends were with me, right? And we used to do the things of research, be it of content together. So essentially, it was not only my research that I was getting in myself; it was others' research as well. So that's where it started. And then, of course, I was in 10th that time, so I had my board exams. So of course, the limit started to fluctuate a little, and other than giving like at least some time of the day, I started to give a little less time because I had to focus upon the boards. So then, when I finished my boards, I got into more, right? So essentially, before my boards, I had started development, at least learning
Mm-hmm.
the development part, into the courses and stuff like that. So I started development around February, and I finished around May, right? So finished the crux at least by May. So essentially that's how it went for me, and so when I was actually in my board exams, I was as well as on my courses. So maybe I missed like a one or two classes per week, but not more than that. So that's what I tell everyone, that if you're curious, if you're passionate about a particular thing, just go for it, because curiosity will take you places. And alongside, people say Web3 is so new thing and you shouldn't really go there, but it's actually the curiosity that gets you there and gets you motivated to be there. So now talking about how exactly the school and stuff like went. So essentially, I had a long break after my boards where I coped up with most of the things that I lost in the during the
Mm-hmm.
boards season, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it got a little bit balanced out, of course, with the little losses. But yeah, overall it went really good.
Oh, cool. I mean, actually, yes. So it's interesting how managing both things and how you were able to cope it up. And curiosity, yes, curiosity. But it also said curiosity kills the cat. I sometimes I wonder why they say it. Because it's mostly curiosity which drives space explorations for people to go deep within in meditation. And these are two different spectrums, but it's generated out of curiosity, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and how was your parents' reaction? So, when you said, like, I want to get into blockchain.
So there wasn't like as such a reaction to that, because currently I'm young, so I can take risks as much as I want. I'm still in my 11th.
Yeah,
I do not have the forces to earn money and something like that. So I'm quite
yeah.
fortunate over there. So I like from the start. In fact, I say about eighth, ninth grade. I
Mhm.
always used to build projects for maybe hackathons with my friends, or science experiments, science driven projects, robotics and stuff like that. So that was
Mhm.
already a thing of me from the past, and they knew that if I get into one thing, I do not leave that. So that's how it went apparently. Yes, of course, there were a few, like, what are you exactly doing? Just explain us and stuff like that. Because explaining blockchain to person non-tech is really hard, because both of them are from business backgrounds.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's how it went. It was quite. I was like quite fortunate for getting them, and that was quite sweet.
Oh, interesting. So, and how was your friend's reaction? So that would be something interesting to know because traditionally, when you're in 10th, 11th, you're thinking about obviously the future, yes, because with boards you get to think about what you want to take in the 11th, like science, commerce, or whatever different subjects. So, how was it
Right.
their reaction?
So essentially, what happened was that uh, when I had to take up fields, I was quite clear in my mind since a long time that I want to go for science, because if I want to get into computer sciences or programming, I need science, right? I need the physics,
Yeah,
chemistry at least. Sorry, maths and physics at least. So
yeah.
that was already like quite clear in my head that I want to take science. So when I was into the Web3, I started posting tweets, and my friends, even saw that. Since not the group of friends that I made content with, they of course already knew, but the other friends also started looking upon it, and they started, contacting me. What's this? What's that? What's happening there, and what's happening? What is this field exactly? So I started inviting them to my sessions that I take, and so that even they could um, get into the world of Web3, come to get interaction with the communities, join my sessions, learn more about the nitty gritties, and stuff like that. So essentially, that's how it was, and my friends were really happy for me, and I really like that about that.
Oh, cool. So now, do you train anybody in your friend circle or your parents'
Yeah,
friend circle?
essentially yes. So basically, the sessions that I took, let's say in growth school, that was like 2 months long every week, right?
Every
So
Monday. Yeah.
yep, every Monday. So essentially, when I did that, I was the youngest one, and I was teaching them. I was educating them. I won't say teaching, right? We were having a good discussion because the attendees there were all, I'm assuming, over my age, right? And what happened there was around 30 to 80 people joined. Most, that was the average that joined, and everyone almost were, I'd say 99% were over the age of mine. So that was great. Then followed by whichever sessions and education that we're doing, the consultancies, right? So the consultancies are also being given to the startups, and of course all the startup founders till yet
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
gone through, they all are over my age, right? So essentially, it's the all the network that works in Web3, right? The importance of networking, the importance of communities, right? So Web3 is
Yeah.
entirely community driven. For the folks who do not know out there, so what does community driven exactly mean is that if you, let's say, launching a Web3 project, community
Mm-hmm.
aspect is very important. um, be it in the in be it a B2C, or be it any other game dev or something like that you're launching. So essentially, that is very very important when we come to Web3, the community aspect, and that community helps you to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this is about community, and both of us being part of similar communities within the Web3 space. This really really works really well. Cool.
Right,
So how? So now that you're active participant, so the guys, so this is the first myth that you're breaking. Like we said, this is going to be a little bit of a myth breaker with Rushil. First is there's no age limit that when you can actually start. Rushil started learning about Web3 blockchain when he was in 10th, at the age of 15. So essentially, the only thing that you would need is the intent, the curiosity, and put in the effort to learn about anything. Not necessarily blockchain, but it can be anything, right? So that's myth
correct.
one, broken. Cool.
Absolutely. So, just to
Yeah.
add upon that, age is
Yeah.
just a number. You might have heard that from multiple people, but not exactly, really experienced that. So, essentially,
Uh-huh.
what once had happened, let me share an experience. We'd been to a hackathon with my friends, and we told them, we are college people when we were in 10th. And essentially, we
Mm-hmm.
completed the project, and with them, and at the end, we told, we still in 10th. And because the fact that they all were, from colleges and third and fourth year participating in the hackathon, they didn't really want, when we said we're in 10th. So we told them that we're in second year, and we participated in the team with them, and got through. And and then we told them, essentially we were in 10th. So people really do not understand the meaning of age is just a number, and that's what essentially emphasize is required upon. And to be honest, in the field of Web3, there is no age barrier,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the early you start, the early benefits you get. So that's what is the key term here, that when you start, whatever age, right, be it as young as 10, be it as young as 45, right? So whenever you start, just tend to start early so that you get the maximum benefits.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure, that's going to be a lot of value. That when you start early, you get the advantage. Yes, there are a lot of ups and downs, when in any new technology, while it is stabilizing, but then you get the maximum benefit out of it, as the time progresses. That's great. So let's go to our next myth, Rushil. So, so we all talk about blockchain. It's been there, So when 2000, I think 8 or 9, when the white paper came out for Bitcoin, right? and then in 2014 the term Web3 was coined by Gavin Wood, and there, and then Ethereum came into the picture, and now we have tons of L1 and L2 different blockchains. So the question that I really want to see, or challenge the myth is, so how is use of blockchain beneficial? Do you think there is some value in it, or is just hype?
All right, so let me elaborate on this answer because people think that blockchain is a bubble and going to break as soon as possible. So essentially, that is not the case, right? So what happens is people have that mindset. So whenever I take my sessions and someone tells me to go through the advantages and the disadvantages of blockchain, there's one big word highlighted always there. That's immaturity, right? So what does immaturity exactly mean is people not exactly coming into the play. They think that it's like a bubble and it's going to break soon, and do not trust the technology, rather their data goes. So what essentially there's a blockchain does, it privatizes your data in some cases, and in some cases it essentially gives you the security, gives you the privacy that your data exactly deserves. It also offers the transparencies and various other aspects. So what I could say is a bubble. People think those, they associate blockchain and cryptocurrencies to be one thing, right? Essentially, that isn't the case. Cryptocurrencies are totally different and they function upon the infrastructure of blockchain. But blockchain is a technology. You can compare it to a database, right? So blockchain is a technology that is existing, and cryptocurrencies are working upon that infrastructure. So essentially, cryptocurrencies, people might call it a bubble, and but blockchain as a whole, that's the technology, and that has been not recently started into use. Of course, it got the hype recently, but it's existing from the past, right? And essentially, what is that is why it isn't a bubble, right? So you're essentially talking about a technology to be a bubble, rather than an aspect of the technology being a bubble.
Interesting point of view. No, you're right. So obviously it's been there. So if you say cryptographics, or using decoding and coding for any sort of data transmission, that has been there for a long time, right?
Uh-huh.
In different forms. Right? But then what blockchain does is it makes sure that it said that it's immutable, right? You cannot really uh, uh, manipulate it. Right? Is that
Right.
correct?
So essentially, it is nearly impossible to hack, right? I wouldn't say it's 100% hack proof, right? But when we compare it to the Web 2 technologies existing, yes, it is more difficult to data breach or get into a blockchain. But it's not completely impossible. It's nearly impossible. That would be the right keyword there. So when people are like, okay, you doing something on the blockchain, that means that you cannot really get the funds out of there. I'd say a no, because you can do that. The specialized people in that field can do that, but it is nearly impossible. So currently, there isn't like one solution, where you cannot data breach. But when you compare two things, let's say Web 2 and Web 3, there is a huge difference where it comes into play, right? So essentially, Web 2 would be more easily hackable when we compare it to Web 3. So we compare technologies rather than getting the best one.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's cool. So now that you talking about it, bursting some bubbles about, or myths about blockchain development. So do you face a
Correct.
lot of challenges in your daily interactions? With the project that you're working on, the teams, the founders, or like colleagues, like somebody who has been into this in development industry, say about 5-10 years, and he's been working actively on blockchain say about for 3-4 years, and for then you getting in, like very a kid, so to say. I didn't want to say it, but so if you say with that comparison, do you face any challenges there?
I would say not really. Yes, out of 100 people, 99 might be good, but one must be not really nice. So essentially, in communities that that has happened or has happened, it's like when I talk, that I'm doing this, I'm doing that. People tend to get a little frustrated that what have they done and what am I doing. So essentially, that's how it actually works. So let's say there might be a community. In fact, that this is like a real scenario that had happened. I joined, a guy maybe like around 34, 35, or maybe around his 30s, and I'm talking like this, and he's so rude and stuff like that. So that has essentially happened, but it is in the case always, especially not yet happened with my projects that I've worked upon at least.
No, cool. I think in that regard, what happens is that we value the number of years spent on a particular thing a little more, than the knowledge. I think what you've just proven is that it's the knowledge which is supreme. So it doesn't matter what age you are at, like be 17, 18, 15, or if you are 50, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Experience definitely helps. It gives you the ability to handle things better in a faster manner. So for somebody who's worked in blockchain for 10 years, might come up with a solution faster, right? And
Correct.
and the example that you quoted about that person, like feeling that what have I done, and you being so young, to that person, I would say, it shouldn't really matter, so you can start now,
Exactly.
and that would
Exactly.
obviously be there. You see, I've been working for 17, 18 years, right? And I got into blockchain about year and a half back, right? So you can't really, say, I can't really start feeling, sorry for myself, because the experience that I've,
Exactly.
gathered so long, and I've been able to run, one or two companies. So that gave me a lot of experience. So I think
Yeah.
what we need, people need to see, just one quick thing is that how you can, contribute them together, right? Come together with somebody's experience and somebody's fresh knowledge, and get the best out of it.
Absolutely. So experience and knowledge never leaves your mind. In
Yeah.
fact, your ego could. So that's how actually it should work. And let's say rather than getting into it by what is done, you should actually get into it if you like it, rather than criticizing or getting. I'm not talking about myself in general. I'm just talking about a general mindset of people, and that's how essentially the world should work according to me. So start as early as possible. That again comes up here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's good. It's always good to focus on the things that you work on. So now, again, a question coming back to the understanding of Web3. So, what do you think, according to you, is the general public view right now? And maybe you could compare it, from the time you started talking to people, and now that and outside of the community, I would say, because in community, they're obviously building something, creating something, but outside of the community.
Absolutely. So essentially, when I started joining communities, there were around, uh, it's around 2 to 3 thousand people, and now it's currently 9,000, 10,000. So that itself gives a validation to us that people have infused interest in the field. Now coming up to an instance, that let's say a few months back. That I asked, people, what is this technology? How they were like clueless. What is Web3? They do not know. What is blockchain? No idea. But currently, when I was in one session and I asked a person, he asked me a question, in fact, and I asked him a question in return. Do you care about your data? And he was like, yes. And he was that he spoke about for a minute of how his data might data and data privacy is important to him, and that wasn't really the case a long time back, and people actually now have come to know that how important their data exactly is to them, right? And uh, and the person actually spoke really well upon how data privacy is important to him, being a general personnel, not into the development space as well. So that itself gives us a validation, right, to the theme, to the concept. And that's what the difference has been. People have come upon and actually got into the field, especially the content creators have posted about it a lot. In fact, in the near future, they would be doing that, in fact, more. So the more the general public is publicized with it, the better it gets for the entire technology.
Oh, absolutely. So then, see, and what happens is, this new industry creates a lot of fresh opportunities, for a lot of uh, types of career personnel. So it could be designers, because UI UX. is a very very important aspect of Web3. You know that a lot of people are trying to solve that challenge. You know, like how it is working, because Web2 has been it's a very matured market right now, but Web3 is very fresh coming up. So there's got to be a lot of fresh ideas, marketeers, sales, for companies. So company like us, we would work with different sales, organizations or individuals to promote the work. It's always going to be like that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as
So yeah, so let me just add upon that real quick. What I was intent that was what was my intent was to say here was that let's say there is a lot of immaturity, yes, totally, but there is the same amount of opportunities, right? So in immaturity and opportunities, I would say they're inversely proportional, right? Immaturity increases, the opportunity decreases, right? So essentially, that's how one should exactly look upon it. In fact, what I would say there would be that there are lots and lots and lots of opportunities in Web3, be it for every single one who's working in Web2, right? So let's say there is, as you correctly mentioned, a UI UX, a designer, a 3D artist. Um, coming to the development side, if someone already knows some part of development, it would be really nice and be beneficial, in fact. And coming to the other aspect, that would be it sales, martech, or something like that, that is as equally important, especially community managers being there. So that's how all the Web 2 fields have in fact evolved into Web 3, and each and every one can have a role there.
Oh yes, absolutely, and it's going to be a great opportunity. And with the bear market going on right now, so what happened is the people, the scamsters, and all those people who wanted to create a fast buck, or just get benefited out of only the hype and not really creating value, have kind of diminished. Nothing, it never finishes completely, but they have kind of diminished, right?
Correct.
So that gives a lot of space to genuine, who are people interested in building in blockchain, in Web3s, NFT, creating different kind of DAOs and metaverses and stuff like that. So they have a lot of opportunity to go ahead and explore this.
Immense.
Immense.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Cool. So this comes, to our next myth buster question, right? So, what is blockchain development? One, and would you consider, say, development in other languages like Solidity or Rust, blockchain development?
Absolutely. So when we talk about blockchain, people misconcept it just learning Solidity, just learning Rust, or just learning a language, and boom, you're a blockchain developer. No, it's not that easy, right? The very things, the as I say, it's the nitty gritties that matter. Essentially, the fundamentals of blockchain is very necessary unless and until you get upon the main crux of the language or you get upon any other blockchain. So blockchain in general, the fundamentals are very necessary before you dig deep upon one single blockchain. So what I had done is essentially gotten the fundamentals right, all right, and then had gone into Ethereum, right? I specialized in Ethereum, and then when I was done with the Ethereum fundamentals, then I learned upon the language, the Solidity, right? And that's how exactly the flow should be according to me, be it for any single one. So let's say if one wants to get into blockchain development, the main thing that would be to learn the fundamentals of general blockchain, and then specializing into a blockchain. And of course, Solana is a very big blockchain as themselves. So essentially, let's say one wants to get into Ethereum, Solana, or maybe any like Flow and any XYZ blockchain. They must first understand the system of working of that particular blockchain, right? Rather than just learning the language. So people think that once they learn Solidity, they are a blockchain developer. No, you're a Solidity developer, right? So essentially, that's the very big myth around people that you just learn a language and you boom done, you're a blockchain developer. No, that isn't how it works, right? So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
Cool. Rishi, can you just turn your camera a little down? So I think
Sure.
you.
Wait.
Yeah,
Great.
see you a little more. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. Yeah, cool. So no, that's a good, great point. But I will have a a little more deeper answer. That okay, you say that somebody learns Solidity, you're a Solidity developer and not a blockchain developer. So you understand the fundamentals of anything, but what would essentially make you a blockchain developer? Understanding fundamentals doesn't make you somebody who's developing, right? Because essentially you're writing on Solidity only if you are writing for Ethereum, right?
Correct.
But
So let me elaborate
what's
on
that
what I said,
difference?
and I think, I got
Yeah.
that. So let me elaborate a little more here. So when we talk upon blockchain development, people essentially emphasize that to be, let's say, just writing lines of codes, and that is, in simple terms, yes, that's correct. But without, let's say, knowing what's a node, how to generate a hash, and how to exactly get on, let's say, the consensus algorithms, you cannot really start development. Your development would be meaningless because essentially you just know the codes, you just know the functions what are out there. You will just know, let's say, the particular projects, let's say an NFT marketplace. So you'll just know how to design an NFT marketplace or a particular crux, but you wouldn't, let's say, a person comes and tells you, I want this node running on this system, I want this node running on this system. So essentially, that's where it comes into place. So what I would compare it to be, a front end developer versus a full stack developer in web 2 terms, right? So a front end, just like a front end developer, a Solidity developer would be able to develop, not front end, of course, but back end, with comparing it to like front end, only one single portion. But the exact crux of, let's say, how many nodes you want to be running, the tokenomics aspect, the be it the consensus aspect, be it the proof of XYZ that you require, uh, and whatever. So that a blockchain developer would understand rather than person just knowing Solidity, right? Of course, the Solidity developer would also know a little bit concepts, but when you call yourself a blockchain developer, you should be actually into, let's say, each and every aspect like tokenomics, be it POW, POS. You must know the consensus, you must know the nodes running, you must know the hash generated, you must know how does what's the exact flow, of course, and that's where it comes into place. So now, coming up on your question, what's the difference? So concluding, what's the difference would be in simple terms that one is that one person just knows how to develop in Solidity. Of course, they'll develop dApps, they'll develop XYZ. But let's say you want to develop a blockchain, or if you want to develop something on a particular blockchain with your genesis, and with your customization, probably a solid developer won't be able to do that. What a blockchain developer would do.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I think that clears a little bit of a conception. So what I understand is, just to paraphrase that, is that to be a blockchain developer, you have to have a wide, deeper understanding of the blockchain concept per se, right? Then the language comes into the picture, and then the whole environment, where how do you want to create it, what do you want to create, right? Because you would
Absolutely
need to understand, create tokens also on a blockchain, NFT marketplaces, which could be used, say in metaverses as a login requirement. So that kind of dynamics you need to understand to call yourself
right.
a mature blockchain developer.
Absolutely. So essentially, you're absolutely right there. So when we talk upon Solidity developers, it's just NFT marketplace, be it creating of some tokens, but not exactly creating one's own private blockchain, right? Not one's creating one's private network upon any other blockchain. So essentially, that's where the difference lies between a blockchain developer and a Solidity developer.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much. So there you are, audience. One more bit myth busted. Cool. So this, Rushil, I had a question which which actually got me started a little more, getting a little more deep diving into blockchain. Is how does actual data security means? So essentially, what blockchain is a distributed, openly accessible ledger, right? Irrespective of
Absolutely.
whatever blockchain you pick it, which means that it's open for everybody. So then we keep talking about data security. So how does that really work? In an open ledger, like in the traditional database system, in Web 2, you have on different servers, which is a very closed network. You need different set of passwords to access it. But here we're talking about a ledger which is openly accessible. It's like a simple Google sheet or an Excel sheet, right? There,
Correct. So
how do we go ahead? So you get the question, right? So here
yeah.
it is something which is open, and we're talking about security. How does that work?
All right, so for that, great question there. So essentially, what is more important here is to understand there isn't only public blockchains, right? There's a concept of private blockchain. There's the concept of hybrid blockchain. So essentially, let's say there is XYZ company in Web two. I'm not taking any particular company's name, but they store your
Mm-hmm.
data in order to recommend you stuff, and their data is with them, and it's in fact that's how their company revenue works. They sell the data, correct? So when we come upon Web3, and as you rightly mentioned that there is it's open because it's an open ledger, so you know which transaction took place from where and where. But exactly that is in data privacy, correct? That's what your question was. So that is a concept of transparency that comes into play there, and that's actually quite prominent if you can see each and everyone's transactions. But now coming to the privacy aspect, so what I think you gave the question was, let's say, on particular cryptocurrencies, right? Because you can essentially see that from where and where it was transferred. But when we come to something known as private blockchain or like a hybrid blockchain, there it's only within the ecosystem. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
there is for instance your company, right? You have 100 employees and you have 10,000 consumers or customers. So essentially you could
Mm-hmm.
create a private blockchain there so that the data of the consumers is seen by by the consumers and the employees only, and not anyone from outside the world, right? Or maybe you could create a hybrid blockchain if you want the two separate things to be there. One, your
Mm-hmm.
the data, you do not want the consumers to see their data,
Mm-hmm.
but it should be quite
Mm-hmm.
transparent as well. So that's where the aspect of data privacy comes into play. So there's three blockchains, right? Public, private, and hybrid. So that's how the public blockchains work. That's what you said, that it's quite transparent to the entire open world, have an open ledger. But when we come to
Mm-hmm.
private blockchains, you do not come to know, and that's where the main key concept of data privacy and security comes into play.
Okay, and I think there's one more type, right? Consortium blockchain, which is essentially an
Yeah,
extended work of private, right?
right. So that's why I just got into three main, but not into nitty-gritties. So yeah, that's right. Essentially, that there are more branches as well, but they come under
Yeah.
these three. So
Oh, okay,
categorizing
cool.
them, from the top, it's these three.
Okay, yeah. So that I think that way, so it becomes a little more easier that it is just not, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and different other blockchains. What you can do is you can build your own blockchains, like a private one, which is for within the community or within
Correct.
the
Absolutely.
organization, right? But then again, a follow up question: would they be based on any of these L1s, like uh, Ethereum or something else, or they can be entirely created, private blockchains, with, created ground up?
Right. So of course they can be created ground up as well as based upon these. So Ethereum has something known as enterprise Ethereum, which could be used. So that will be like a private one. There could be Corda, there could be Ripple, there could be in fact the IBM blockchain and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So yes, you can create your own one or add upon the existing ones as well.
Oh, interesting. So
So
there
so
you have it,
depending
folks.
upon
Hmm.
yeah, just let me just include that answer. So depending upon your use case or where you want it to be used, you can in fact categorize yourself into the particular pocket.
No, that's interesting. So that gives a lot of leverage to a lot of businesses how they want to use blockchain as a technology, and not as a just a crypto uh, currency creator or a usage. So because what happened was, so because a lot of rug pulls, wash trading, and all these things, it gave a little bit of a bad name, right? So what we really need to do is make sure that that understanding of cryptocurrencies with the blockchain usage, they need to be separated.
Absolutely. As I mentioned in the start as well, that uh, blockchain and cryptocurrencies are two different things, And
Yeah.
there might be cryptocurrencies hacks, which of course is a
Yeah.
blockchain hack, but that is quite comparatively less when we compare it to the to world. So
Yeah.
essentially, yes, that, and in fact there are lots of lack of resources as well in blockchain when we compare it to, let's say, one developing in React or Native, right? So that's where the difference entirely comes upon, and that's why people are kind of skeptical about the technology as a whole. But no, it isn't that the case.
No, cool, cool, cool. No, I think it's great. We just need to keep doing our effort, and over time, and this understanding, and the change that that a lot of us are trying to bring in about bringing the separation is going to take bear fruit as well. Absolutely. So, Rushil, I have one last let's say tech question here. Is that we talk about that it's easily traceable, right? So how do you think, like say when say some currency is transferred, or a token or a coin is transferred, say from one account to the other using different wallets, right? Types of wallets are different, that we're not discussing right now. So how do you think, I can quickly trace the set of multiple transactions on a blockchain?
So let's take a very simple example, Ethereum, right? One of the most prominent. So they have their own websites that which show that there is this particular transaction going on. So in it updates. It's a very dynamic website. It updates like every few seconds, and that's how the prominency of Ethereum is. So there's this website called as etherscan.io. There is blockchain.com, and for Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin Explorer and stuff like that, which are essentially showing that what exactly were the transactions that actually took place and stuff like that. So when we talk about transparency, it's let's say again we'll come back to your company being an example. Uh, you could essentially see what transactions took place if you have a private blockchain. Or let's come to Ethereum or Bitcoin. We could see which is the recent most transaction taking place, or which is the recent most block mined, right? Sitting right here, and I don't know from where the
Mm-hmm.
transaction has been initiated. Maybe Germany, maybe France, maybe the States, be it Indonesia, be it Philippines, any country. And I'm sitting here in India, and I can see that. Correct. So that's what is essentially transparency that comes into play here, and that's a very big key of blockchain.
So then, why is it becoming difficult? It's again a follow-up question to the same thing. Why is it becoming difficult? So all these scams which happen, people get to know that, that money was transferred, stolen, say from one account. So I'll go a little back. Say from Mount Gox had the first big, scam or a hack, where it's about $8-9 million of Bitcoin were hacked, right? So if the traceability is so easy, right? So why don't we just go ahead and like catch the people?
Absolutely. So, great question there again. So, of course, the traceability is there, but when you switch accounts, when you transfer funds from one account to another, and in fact do that repetitively, and so the scammers or the personnel who hack the systems are very smart in themselves, right? No doubt, because they, in fact, got against one of the main security blockchains, right? The security of blockchain. So essentially, what they do is maybe transfer it into 1,000 wallets, the funds that have taken place, so that of course the blockchain can see it's gone to this account. But again, the accounts are anonymous. You do not know who's there behind that account. You do not know from where that account is there. You do not know any other information except that alphanumeric value coming up on the screen. That's your public address. So essentially that makes it hard. But yes, the companies do trace the transactions because of the transparency offered by blockchain, and they get into talks with the people with the different communication needs, and sort out the issue what happens. So maybe they give the person who data breached a bounty reward and take the money back, or maybe you know the person who hacked the system doesn't want to work, doesn't want to negotiate. So that's where the negotiations and things come into play. So yes, that could be traceable, but we know that they could be transferred into lakhs of accounts, and then that makes it hard to get your money recovered back.
Yeah. No, but the way I see it is, that okay, because it's they might transfer it to lakhs of accounts. Okay, but then the trace because of traceability, it would still be possible over a period of time. Maybe not instantly, like in one day, but spread over a few months and years, people would still be caught, so to say, right?
Absolutely.
And I think
So
it
that's
does
happening.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's happening. So as I mentioned, they get into negotiations and stuff like that. The traceability is taking place after some period of time, because that's what is a little hard. But yes, depending upon how efficient is the company and how efficient is the person breaching the data, it all depends. And yes, absolutely, that could be traced back and recovered over a few months with
period
help
of
of
time. Sure.
negotiations.
Yeah, so that's kind of important, right? So that it is 100% traceable. So that I think,
Right.
or because everything is happening on the same chain. So if somebody is transferring from one wallet to the other, it's still all happening on the chain. So as long as it is on the chain, it is 100% traceable. It might take time, it might be a little complicated, but it's possible as compared to the regular scams. So that's interesting. Cool. Rushi, we are right at the end, so it's been lovely. We'll have just a couple of more, from your outlook for Web3 growth in India. How do you see it? Positive, negative, neutral?
All right, so that's like a good question out there. So people would think that's perspective, but what I think here it to be that people should first get get the knowledge about Web3, right? The fact that UPI grew so fast in India, there is a immense possibilities that cryptocurrencies and stuff grow in India with the help of the government, of course. The
Yeah,
taxes and everything that come into play, I will not go there. But the fact, the more faster and efficient is the knowledge spread, or is the awareness, the fact more people would come on board. Of the blockchain, right? So essentially, what I see it to be, yes, a very big tool for data privacy reasons. So I read somewhere that there are lots and lots of data breaches happening nowadays, especially in banks and stuff like that. So of course, that's where the employee of blockchain could be used, and that's where, in general perspective, as we know, Dubai government is running nodes upon blockchain. So that's how it could all function, and I think that's a positive growth. But currently, in the current scenario, I would say it is a slow growth, and depending upon
yeah,
the awareness, as it spreads faster, the more
yeah.
positive rate it is. And I feel that adoption is pretty necessary.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's cool. That right. It's going to go at slow but steady because you have a lot of companies coming in and from India. I'm assuming from India and kind of taking a global outlook. Like for example, Polygon. That's one of the biggest L2 chains. From India. So that's fantastic. Cool. And one or two critical pieces of advice, for primarily students who wants to get into Web3 space right now.
Right. So I'll talk general, right, into Web3 development, or entering into the world of Web3. So essentially, what is the main key that is required here would be getting started, right? Because that's the hardest part. If it's one day more
Yeah,
or today, right? That's the key. Either you take one day more and keep on going ahead, or today, right?
yeah.
So that's how it actually works. And one person, so I'll just give a quick roadmap upon how one can, as a bonus thing, become a blockchain
Sure, that'll be
developer.
great.
So
Absolutely.
what is essentially required, as I mentioned, there could be two sides of the coin. One person who's already a developer, one person who's getting into development, right? So first, talking about a person getting into development, the main thing for them would be to start with the fundamentals, and then let's say they're specializing in Solana, so they'll have to first understand the framework of Solana, and throughout this process, join communities, join hackathons. Though you do not know development, but you could be a part of the team, seeing the action, or joining people who are into freelance and stuff like that. So essentially understanding the process, and once you're done with the fundamentals of specific chain, you start, let's say, Rust if it's for Solana, right? Solidity for Ethereum, Cadence for Flow. So just like that, then you start the language, and of course then comes the main portion there, build projects, join hackathons, join communities, and if you want to start a business, you can do that. If you want to get a job, good high paying job, you can do that. So increase the experience day by day. And for the person who's already a developer, let's say they know JavaScript, and that adds upon it. So essentially, what you will be called, let's say one person is into front end, and they go through the same process of learning a little bit of fundamentals, then specializing into the language. And for them, learning a language or understanding a language will be more easier because they already have an experience. So for them the process will be quick. And let's say if a person knows front end, they'll be called a full stack blockchain developer, right? That's
Yeah.
the difference, because then you can develop the front end as well as the back end. So blockchain is a back end technology, and if you know the front end part, you can be a full stack blockchain developer. So that's how one could be. And let's say one is not a front end developer, just knows a few nitty gritties. Cool, because you understand programming as a whole. So you know variables, you know functions and stuff like that, which a person starting into blockchain doesn't know. So that gives you the edge over people.
Oh, absolutely. I think that gives a good roadmap to everybody listening. So irrespective of where you are, you're a student, college going student, you started your career, or your mid career profession, anybody, that gives a good timeline of how you need to step, and good concrete steps as well. Those are Rushil. So thank you so much. For that, and thank you again. So I think that comes at the end of our show here. And thank you for coming in and giving so many insights. And yeah, so look forward to working with together on some projects. Yeah, it's great. Any last bit
Sure.
piece of advice for the audience?
Right. So what I would advise people would be start again. I'll come back to the point that I focus upon. That's start as soon as possible. Start, be consistent, because consistency is the key. You might have heard that, but that actually is current fundamental of Web3, right? And the last thing would be that do not, let's say if you got into the concept of nodes, hashes, get into sessions, get into places, get into workshops. There's so many out there happening. Join communities, join hackathons. You will automatically be aware of the fundamentals, be it of the nitty gritties and stuff like that. At least an overview. Lastly, thank you, Alek, for inviting me today. It was a great experience and exposure for me as well. Looking
No,
forward to
thank you.
working with you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Sheil. Thank you very much, everybody. Who's tuned in, who's watching it later, listening to it later. Thank you very much again. See you in the next episode.
Thank you, folks.